Hey everyone, before we get started with the video, if you're interested in video games, news and articles, visit mmomonkey.com. You find the link down in the description below, and they post new articles every day while also linking to other existing articles from other websites, so you can always get different perspectives on the same subject. So yeah, visit mmomonkey.com. Hello everyone, I'm your host Blacktuna and welcome back in a new video. Today we are talking about Marvel's Avengers. This is gonna be some sort of a review, a very small review if you will, after me finishing the story and diving in the multiplayer content for like 10 hours or so. You may have noticed the title of the video, which is basically Marvel's Avengers doesn't have heart and soul, and I want to say that you should wait until I reach my final conclusions in the video before you start attacking me or killing me in the comments. My experience with the game has been mixed, and you know, I've been one of the people who was anticipating and waiting Marvel's Avengers, not necessarily because I thought it would have been this groundbreaking game that would have shattered the status quo of the gaming industry, but because I really wanted and needed something to fill in my time, you know, to play something mindlessly and that I can play while watching something on YouTube or streaming on Twitch, you know, again, something to just fill my time with. And I also knew that there was going to be some story content, but I already did not expect too much out of it. And you know, my expectations were completely subverted because the story content was actually quite enjoyable. But then the rest of the content, you know, the multiplayer content, the secondary missions, you know, they leave a lot to be desired. But as always, when I start talking about games, I want to start with performance. The performance of this game is abysmal. Now on screen I will leave you my specs, my PC specs, and trust me when I say that I hardly managed to hit constantly 60 FPS. The performance in this official release, in this version 1.0, was worse than the performance that I had in the beta, somehow, some way, I don't know. Now mind you, I was playing with maximum graphics. I downloaded the HD texture pack, which I ended up removing later on because it was only affecting my performance while the graphics were staying pretty much the same. I haven't noticed any difference between HD texture pack on and off. So yeah, the performance is really terrible, and it's not one of those groundbreaking games graphically speaking, so it's not even that justified. Now immediately the environments look great, the character designs look great, but overall it doesn't really justify the performance loss, and I can't really imagine how this game is performing on console because it's unbelievable. And the thing is that even graphically there were tons of issues that were brought from the beta and that were not fixed for release. For example, the most common of them would be texture not loading. You will start a cutscene and the textures on the other characters that are not your character would be super low resolution until then they load up later on in the game, maybe when you get in gameplay. Which, okay, it's not a game breaking issue, but it's very annoying, especially on PC where the performance should not be impeded that much, especially on high tier machines and especially with high texture packs installed on the machine. And not only I had issues with performance, meaning not hitting 60 FPS constantly, but I also had issues with game freezes, crashes, again textures not loading pretty much everywhere, even in the environment sometimes, particle effects being immobilized in the air, like you would see for example raindrops and sparks from enemies being just spawned in the environment and just staying there. The rain would not fall, the particle effects would not drop on the ground, they would just stand still, and you know, it's immersion breaking and it's kinda annoying. And you know, if it happens once, you can even be smiling and laughing at the issue, like, oh my god, look at this issue right here that I found. But these issues are persisting through the whole game, so it's not fun anymore after the second or third time you encounter them. Also, this seemed to be very apparent issue. What was their QV team doing? Or maybe if the QV team reported them, why didn't they fix these issues? Because people reported these issues even in the beta, so there's not really a justification for what is going on with this launch. But okay, with the performance aside, let's talk about the game. So again, as I said, I went into the story with low expectations. I knew the game was gonna have a story, but you know, being the game some sort of looter shooter, I was not expecting this AAA tier story. And in fact, it is not. It's not a AAA tier story. It's not The Last of Us Part 2. It's not Death Stranding or other games like that. And I also mentioned 2 games that I haven't played yet, but anyway. So yeah, it's not a movie-worthy story, but it's a cool story nonetheless. And I like the dynamics behind it because the story starts with your new main character, which is Kamala Khan, this little girl who's a fan of the Avengers, at A-Day, this festival made for the Avengers. And then everything starts to go down, then there's a time skip 4 or 5 years later, and you, as Kamala Khan, with your newly found powers, you have to basically reassemble the Avengers for the good cause, because you know that there's something going on, you know that the Avengers were set up at A-Day, and yada yada yada. So yeah, the concept behind it, you know, I dig it, it was kinda cool, and it's interesting to see that a new character, a young mind, a fresh mind, is the one thing that the Avengers need to come back together and reassemble for this final fight, this final incredible journey. So during your adventures, not only you will have to reassemble the Avengers, but you will have to rebuild the helicarrier that you're gonna use as your flying base. You're gonna help Hank Pym, meaning Ant-Man, with the other Inhumans, and you're gonna build a resistance as well. And there's all this kind of cool stuff. And now, spoiler alert, there's a couple of cool moments in the story. For example, when Tony finds Captain America still alive in a space station, and you know, it's kind of heartwarming. And then when they are in that space capsule and they are basically stranded in space, and then Thor comes to save them, like Captain Marvel saved Tony in Avengers, the movie. Yeah, there are some very cool moments, and also the final fight, the final boss fight, it's really cool and well done. And I appreciate the fact that up until that moment, you usually go, you know, you go yourself, one character that the story gives you, plus other 2 or 3 Avengers tops in every mission. But in this final act, in this final boss fight, you get to play as every single one of the Avengers, everyone with its role, everyone with its responsibility, and it really makes you feel like you are facing an Avengers level threat, which is what I wanted from this whole game, because everyone has a role, everyone knows what they have to do, everyone is following, of course, the direction of Captain America, who just came back, and it's all cool and dynamic, because with Tony you have to, for example, blast off the thrusters for MODOK, and then with Captain America you have to bait him and then beat him up from the generator that he has on his back. Then with Thor you have to blast his shield off. You know, there's a lot of cool dynamics and mechanics in this fight, and I really appreciate it, and I really wish the game was all done like this, because it was really fun to see and really fun to play as well, because you always have something new to do, something different to do, so you have to adapt your playstyle to every single situation. Instead of, unfortunately, most of the game is just mindless beating in different locations. Some locations are very cool. I have to give the credit to the designers, the environmental designers, and the character designers as well, because the design of the game is actually very good. The game is pleasing to look at, it's very beautiful, and some locations are really screenshot worthy, and I will show you some screenshots that I made right now. But apart from that, again, as I said, it's mostly mindless beating. You do get a couple of boss fights. For example, in the very beginning you get a Taskmaster boss fight, then a bit later on you get Abomination, and then a couple of huge AIM robots that you have to fight, and those ones are also very cool fights, for example, but you still get to play as one character alone. The rest of the game is a mix of ups and downs. You know, you have to go in a location, beat some enemies, or you know, stay in a location until Jarvis does something, and they want to give you some sort of feeling of what's to come in the multiplayer, because in the multiplayer that's basically everything that you're going to do. Although, you know, I have to admit that that's the kind of thing that I was into coming into this game, so I'm not really too upset about it or too mad. Actually, it's quite enjoyable because the gameplay loop is actually well done. The combat is very well done. In the beginning it's kind of bare bones, so if you play for the first couple of hours and you feel like the gameplay is lame, give it a couple of extra hours, because then you're gonna level up your character, gain new skills, and also you're gonna improve your combos, because with the abilities leveling up you get ability points that you can spend, and you can unlock new combos, new abilities. For example, with Iron Man, I was kinda put off in the beta when I was using blasters, and then I found out that I can unlock lasers and rockets, and since then lasers have become my main weapon. Absolutely, I love lasers. And right now, as I'm speaking, my Iron Man is level 35, and I'm specking all my skill points on improving the lasers and making them stronger and better, and I'm getting a lot of satisfaction out of it. You know, you can min-max. That's basically what the game comes down to. You do a mission, you get gear, you min-max what you want to do with your character, and then you jump in the next mission. That's it. Also, finally we get the chance to play a little bit more as Thor and Captain America. And I have to say, Captain America is my new favorite character. In the beginning, it doesn't seem like it. Like when you get to play that very short session during the A-Day, you're like, I don't know, Captain America looks kinda lame. But then later on, when you get to play in the final act of the game, and you discover you can parry enemies with your shield, or that you can unlock a shield throw that can target multiple enemies, or that you can ricochet your shield out of other enemies, you know, the gameplay kinda gets dynamic, and then his combos are very strong. He has some very good aerial attacks. And yeah, Captain America has now become one of my favorite characters in the game. Also because with the shield and the parry, you can basically disable some of the enemies that will give you a lot of trouble with the other characters. Thor, on the other hand, is okay. I didn't have the chance to play him in depth. I'm just level 7 or 8 with him, so I didn't really get to see how his abilities work later on at a higher level. But he is not one of my favorite. Let's say that Iron Man is still my favorite flying hero at the moment. The others, you know, Hulk, Black Widow and Kamala Khan, you already know them. There's no need for me to introduce them to you. And then comes the multiplayer. Day 1 multiplayer was inoperable. Queues were lasting forever. You couldn't find matches. Today, second day of launch for me, I can gladly report that the matchmaking has been fixed and I can play with people. I played 10 hours or so today with the online people, and you know, it's a lot of fun. Mostly because, for example, if I'm playing as Black Widow in single player and I find a door that I have to smash, I can't just tell Hulk to smash it. You know, it doesn't work like that. You know, you kind of have to skip it because you're a Black Widow and you can't break the door. Thankfully, in multiplayer, you know, it's much more dynamic. Everyone has its own role. So if there's a door that needs to be opened, you just wait for the guy to do it and you all go through. So yeah, multiplayer is fun. It's not my favorite part of it. Mostly I tend to play alone by myself because you can still play multiplayer missions by yourself. So that's about it. And then of course you can take some special missions from Shield or Inhumans alike. And you know, completing these missions, you're gonna gain reputation with your faction, and then you're gonna unlock some rewards. Their shops are gonna sell better stuff, and so on and so forth. The interesting thing though is that the missions that these people give you, these Shield and Inhumans give you, are the most interesting missions of them all. Because normal secondary quests, normal missions that you can do in multiplayer, kinda suck. They're very simple. You just fly in, beat the shit out of the enemies, and fly out. There's no real story, if you will, to them. Instead, the missions from Shield and the Inhumans do have a backstory to them. And of course, yeah, you just fly in, beat the enemies, and fly out. The thing is that the ones that I did until now in these 2 days both put me against 2 bosses. Like the first one was Taskmaster, again in a different locations with different mechanics. He fought completely differently from when you face him in the story in the first act at A-Day. And then another mission put me against Abomination. Even him, actually he was the biggest challenge that I had in the game so far. And also he had different moves. And the thing is that sometimes when he incapacitates some of your allies, he's gonna kill them all for good if you don't resuscitate them rapidly enough. Which is a kind of a cool mechanic, and I found myself alone against him. Although the fight was actually quite amazing because I was with Iron Man flying around him and blasting my lasers, and he was throwing rocks at me. It was actually kinda cool. The only issue that I had with it is that in the end, when he had like 10 HP left, he basically got stuck and couldn't move anymore, and I just had to put him down like a rabid dog. So okay, from what I'm saying right now, it doesn't sound like there's too many issues with the game. There are not too many issues, that's a fact. You know, people that are shitting on the game just for the sake of shitting on it, they don't have anything better to do. And you know, I want to give you my side of the story. Of course, you are entitled to your own opinion. If you don't like the game, if you fucking hate it, feel free to hate it, but give me a reason. Because some people are just shitting on the game because, oh, it's just a looter game. Because of course, all looter games have to be bad. Okay, whatever. I'm just giving you my impression. As I said, the game, it's fun for me. I love playing it, and I'm not gonna stop playing it. You know, I just put it on my first screen. On my secondary screen, I put a YouTube video or a Twitch streaming. And I just play mindlessly. It's fun, you know, you can even play online. Again, as I said, it's all fine and dandy. My problem with it is that I noticed during the story, during the multiplayer missions, this game has no soul, no heart behind it. Yes, as I said, the designers did an amazing job with the character designs and environment designs, but there's a lot to this game that's missing. Like, some of the things really seem patched out together last minute. For example, the whole audio department of the game sucks. Not because it's bad, but because it doesn't fucking work. The whole audio is messed up. Like, sound will completely cut off sometimes at random. If you're flying with Iron Man, you're not gonna hear your engines anymore, or if you're shooting lasers, you're not gonna hear that anymore. If there's some dialogue popping out and you're like, what the fuck, where's the audio for it? Well, guess what? There's no audio for that because it's broken. And the more mess there is, like more explosions, more skills being used at the same time, the more likely it is for the audio to break. And this issue was there even in the beta, so I don't understand why something so important like audio is so important in a game. Why hasn't it been fixed? Not only that, spoiler alert, when you get Captain America out of the space station, you get to play as Captain America. He is naked, no shield, nothing. So if you start punching in the air and then you stop, Captain America is gonna play the animation of him having the shield on his hand and putting it on his back. Okay, you may be saying, come on, like, no, you're exaggerating, this is a very minor thing. No, it is not a minor thing. If you love the game that you're making, if you love what you have to put outside in front of millions of people, you make sure it's in the best possible state ever. And yeah, this may be something that many people won't notice, like 99% of the people who won't notice. But the people who will notice will realize that you didn't give a shit about that specific thing. And the same thing happens for multiple things around the game. Like, for example, how comes every fucking time Hulk turns back in Bruce Banner has a coat on him, has a jacket on him, and he has his glasses back? Where did he find all that stuff? All the fucking time. Every single time. You pay attention to it. Every time he transforms back from Hulk to Bruce Banner, he's gonna always have the same clothes. Same thing, if I change my skin on my Hulk and I want him to have a blue ripped t-shirt, fucking change the color of Bruce Banner's shirt, make it blue instead of purple. It's like a small color palette change, come on. Same thing with Tony Stark. The first time you see him, he has a t-shirt with, of course, his arc reactor popping out of the t-shirt. Look closely at that arc reactor. It does not even emit light, it's just a JPEG pasted on the t-shirt. That's what it is. It's just a texture on the t-shirt, even low res. It's like, okay, minor detail, but minor detail upon minor detail upon minor detail makes big details. Another thing, if you see closely, even when Tony Stark is in his armor, or when Thor is using his Odin force and circles on his armor are gonna light up, if you look closely, it's super low resolution JPG, even with the high definition texture pack. The fuck? And yeah, again, minor detail, but how comes other games can do that and you don't? Then of course the campaign is like 10, tops 15 hours long if you really take your time with it. You wanna know why is that long? Why it lasts 15 hours? Because that's a lot for this short story. It's a very short story, by the way. Because half of that time you're gonna be spending it on the helicarrier walking. Because yes, on the helicarrier you cannot run, you cannot jump, you cannot sprint, you cannot do anything. You're forced to walk at this embarrassing speed, and it's gonna make you want to lose your mind. Before starting a mission, for example, you want to buy some new gear. Okay, go to the vendor. Takes 5 minutes to go to the vendor because you're walking at fucking Mach 3. Then you buy something from the vendor and you're gonna have to walk back all the way to the war table to go in your mission. But oh wait a second, I want to buy a new skin. Let's go to the skin vendor. Another 5 minutes of walk because there's no quick access to these vendors. You have to physically walk there at the slowest speed imaginable. And the same thing happens when you want to go to Hank Pym. Of course, first of all, before going there, you're going to have to go through a loading screen, because everything in this game is behind a loading screen, and yes, I have the game on an SSD and it still takes a lot of time. Then okay, you are at the Resistance hideout, go to Hank Pym, takes you 5 minutes, go to the vendor, takes you other 5 minutes, and so on and so forth. And then the most absurd thing of them all, if you enter a mission and you complete the mission, then you're gonna be staying in the Queen Jet, you know, from where you can still go to do other missions, you know, you can keep doing them on and on and on. But wait, what if you want to stop playing and you want to go back to the helicarrier or from Hank Pym and you want to buy some new gear from the vendors? What do you have to do? How can you do that? Well, you cannot. You have to go back to the main menu of the game, access again multiplayer, and from then you can go to the other locations. You can go back to the helicarrier or from Hank Pym. And these are small details that if you would care, if you actually played your game while making it, you would notice. You would like, okay, this is annoying, let me fix that. But they didn't. Everything in this game is annoying. It's meant to be annoying. Also, this is an Avengers game. Avengers and Marvel itself, they have years, decades of history from which you can gather things, information, details, fun facts. And this is the thing that bothered me the most while playing the game. Because apart from 1, 2 or maybe 3 references to comic books or events in the Avengers universe, the game has nothing about Avengers. So yeah, you are playing as the Avengers, but you know, the missions, the locations, they lack details, they lack references to the comics, they lack, you know, things that when you see them you're like, oh my god, that's from that comic, that's from that story over there. So yeah, it's missing a lot of this flavor that would make the game authentic and welcoming to play, because I can imagine someone who has read hundreds of comic books, he would rejoice seeing some of these references in the game, like, oh my god, look at that building, that's where Doctor Strange lives, just saying, you know. But there's not a whole lot of these things in the game, which makes it kinda empty, kind of soulless. You know, the game has the Marvel Avengers tag and brand on it, but it's just for the characters and that's it. MODOK, I will give them credit, it's very well done. And ultimately, I know that this is a live service game, they're gonna add more characters and more content, and in fact, when you finish the story, you are given this actually very interesting cutscene, this very interesting short clip where they foreshadow what's coming, you know, cosmic energies and cosmic enemies, which is kinda cool. And I don't have a problem with it, honestly, I really don't. Again, I know what I was going into, and the gameplay is actually fun and I like it. The story was actually better than I expected, but still, while playing this game, and even after playing this game, I still feel like I'm playing a generic game, not an Avengers game, because it feels like it's really soulless. Even technically speaking, it doesn't have a soul. The musics themselves, they don't have a punch, they don't have meaning, you know. Even in the most exciting moments of the story, there's no epic music or exciting music or sad music. There's nothing to look forward to or to remember about this game after you've finished it. Like, even the story, how it's wrapped, how it's packed, it's so weird. Like, you go in this epic mission, you do this incredible accomplishment in this story mission, and after you do it, as soon as you complete the objective, the game cuts to black and you're back to the Queen Jet for the next mission. Like, nothing. There's no dialogue, there's no cutscene that explains what you're gonna do now. There's no excitement or preparation for the next mission. You're just jumping to the next one. And this happens so much. Like, for example, you're playing the game as your main character is Kamala Khan, this girl who left her house, her parents, her family, to go and try and reassemble the Avengers. And during this whole fucking game, not once you see their parents or her father, apart from the very beginning. You never see any of that shit. Like, she's a bit sad that she misses her parents, you know, that she did something wrong escaping from her house, but you don't really see her parents worrying. Like, it would have been interesting to see maybe her parents watching the TV news and seeing her fighting enemies, and you know, her father recognizes her because he's aware of her powers and he's like, oh my god, Kamala, what are you doing? Beta, what are you doing? Nothing. There's none of that. And this happens through the entirety of the game. Like, your action in a mission don't really have consequences, you know. You just go to the next mission as soon as you finish the previous one, which is kind of sad. I mean, we're talking about Avengers again. We're not talking about 5 random idiots that are trying to save the world. We're talking about a story, a world that is well established. But again, maybe I was expecting a little bit too much. So what's my final thoughts on the game? You know, it's my personal thing. I do like loot-based games and I do enjoy the combat of Marvel's Avengers. I think the classes are diversified enough that can allow for a lot of replayability. Plus new characters are gonna be added soon. Of course we have Hawkeye or his daughter, whoever she is, I don't know, or his sister actually. And the story is actually quite good. If you want to play it only for the story because you don't care about the rest, I think it's actually a good story and it's worth playing. Maybe not at the premium price of $60. I think you should, if you're only interested in the story, I think you should wait a little bit more. And also, even if you're not interested only in the story and you haven't bought the game yet and you're thinking about buying it, I'd suggest you wait a little bit more, at least until they fix all the audio and graphics issues that plague this game, because it's almost unplayable. Like, honestly, it has been really tough for me to go through the story with these issues. I would have appreciated if it would have been more authentic to the Marvel franchise, to the Avengers franchise. And unfortunately it isn't. It is what it is. I'm not gonna rate the game. I wouldn't give it a big rating anyway, a very good rating, but I wouldn't give it not even a bad one. I mean, it's actually a pretty decent game. I wouldn't talk about the microtransactions. I know there's a marketplace, but it's only cosmetics. It's a bit the items are a bit overpriced. I'll admit everything is a bit overpriced in this market. But again, you don't have to buy them, you're not forced, it's only cosmetic items. And plus the game, even the basic story, gives you a bunch of skins for each character. And then, of course, you can still buy skins and other things from the vendors in-game with in-game money. So I guess it's okay. But you let me know what you think. Do you feel the same as I do? Do you think Marvel Avengers doesn't have a heart and soul? Let me know with a comment down below, because this is gonna do it for today's video. If you liked it, please click the like button, subscribe and leave a comment down below, and don't forget to visit MMOmonkey.com in the description down below. See ya!